The following is a presentation of iRacing on PTR TV. We'd like to thank all of our channel partners for their support. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and we hope you enjoy today's broadcast. The B-roll footage that you see on our screen is usually pretty accurate of what we're going to see here in a Red Sox Racing League event. Today we take it to Germany, to the famous Nürburgring. We are not going to go around the 13-mile Nordschleife. We are going to be going around the Formula One circuit, but we are not going to be dealing with the sunshine today for the first time in Red Sox history and ultimately in PTR TV history. The wet weather tires will be equipped for a night of action here today on the channel. Welcome everybody to PTR TV for tonight's coverage. I don't know why that's so small. Of tonight's coverage of the Red Sox Racing League here at the Nürburgring. Going to be myself, Corey Silva, in the booth, and I have Bradley Dalton here to help me out with the calls here today. So, Bradley, welcome to a wet Nürburgring. First time we've had it here on the channel. We're kind of easing our way into the wet weather conditions here in the league, and these drivers are having to test these new experiences out.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I am enjoying this so far. I am enjoying seeing the wet weather tires, seeing the challenges. There's a saying that rain is the ultimate equalizer, and it brings out the skill and it brings out the scaries. If you can master rain in sim racing, you can master just about anything, because it's truly gonna be what tests your comfort in the car, it tests your racecraft, and it can give drivers that we traditionally see near mid or rear of the pack all the way up front. So this is gonna be one that I'm keeping my eye on. No surprise right now that Robertson is up the front, but Dave Hill in second, and then Robert Barris in third, and Mark Kudrowski in fourth in the Lamborghini. So three Porsches not trying to kill each other and not trying to take out their drivers, and then a Lamborghini, which we don't traditionally see up in the front. So I like it. This is gonna be a good one.
Yeah, just looking, I mean, we've been in our little off-air time. We have watched the top of the pylon switch places probably about 3 or 4 times between Robertson and Hill. Hill had just taken it over, and Robertson bests him by about a 10th right there, and then Robert Barros, Lightning McQueen, Ka-chow there. He is down there in third, about a half second off. So just privy some information so you will know what exactly we are dealing with here today. We are dealing with light rain. It is kind of in a static environment, so we're not going to see a drying line. Essentially, what you see is what you have. It's going to be a consistent wet race. We're not going to see any crazy puddles forming. So these guys, once they kind of get the gist of what they have to do, they should be pretty well inclined to, get consistent with their lap times. But the one thing that will be difficult there, Bradley, is the spray here. You can see Dave Hill right to the rear deck lid there of Ryan Robertson. And once you're up to high speed, that spray can be blinding.
Yeah, and the spray, when it first came through in iRacing, when they first dropped the Tempest weather system, there were a lot of issues, and they've toned it down a bit, but it is still a challenge. The spray is still there, and it is something you have to kind of deal with. Now, I do like that we're running in a little bit of a static setup. I like that because it gives everyone a chance to get comfortable. Red Sox Racing League is traditionally a fixed setup, fixed go. You know what you're getting when you come to this league sort of setup. So adventuring out is going to be something that I'm interested to see how this race influences future races in the league. I am interested to see how drivers handle the changing conditions. I'm really excited to see how they handle the race start. The race start is going to be what I think really tells us how the drivers feel about this moving forward. And I'm just kind of watching through as Robertson comes through the Schumacher S's here, and I've been keeping an eye on him going through because he has Hill right behind him. Like we talked about, they've been trading off times. It's going to be interesting, but I think regardless, lap 1, turn 1 into the Hog-Hocken, into the Mercedes arena, that's going to be where we really see the effect of rain on this.
Thank you, ATVO, for not rendering a track map of this place. So was going to show you a track map of here, but I'm sure you guys at home have seen a few races here at the NURB, so we're just going to be doing it here a little bit slow. One thing I meant to do that I didn't quite get to was compare a lap time in the dry here versus what we are doing here. Right around 2 minutes 11 seconds running around here. I would be interested if we're able to try to populate what these guys would be running in the dry here as a comparison. But as we were talking with the conditions here today, let's just pull up the weather. I mean, we'll get the full preview of information here. 72 in the air with a 62-degree track temp. Still 7 o'clock sim time here. And the track status is lightly wet. So that's a very interesting way to say it, but that's how iRacing describes it there in the back end. So lightly wet. So, I mean, you could probably, actually, no, I probably wouldn't take slicks out here, but this is not the slickest conditions you'll get. I would say probably about a 25% grip reduction to what you'd have on a dry track. So I'd probably guess maybe 5-6 seconds off pace, maybe somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up times right now to kind of give you an idea of what you're looking at, because the thing is, it really does depend on a little bit driver comfort. There's a little bit of skill there that goes through. I'm showing 156 to 157.
Yeah, I was actually just about to go back on my playlist here of the Red Sox and try to find our last Nürburgring race, but I trust that your information is relatively accurate there. So what did I say? I was about 5-6 seconds off. So no, we're about 16-17 seconds off. So pace a lot slower than I predicted there.
Yeah, and I think part of that goes into the fact that everyone's running wet weather tires. I think a little bit of that is going to be setup dependent as well. Fixed setups are traditionally going to be somewhat slower than running a custom setup that you're comfortable with. So I think all of that comes into play. So we're looking at 2:11s versus what would probably traditionally be a 2-minute lap given, because of course I'm looking at time trial times on Sim Racer hubs, so there's a little bit of discretion there. I think these guys would realistically be doing probably 2 minutes, minute 59s. So we're still looking at about 10 to 12 seconds off on Robertson from what a dry time would be, and a lot of that is just reduced grip. It is reduced grip. It is the wet tire does not hold the same, and some of that is when the dry line gets wet and it's rubbered in. You have to take alternate lines through the corners. You'll see some of these guys not take the traditional racing line. They're going to look for alternate paths to avoid the rubber and avoid the curbs, because that is where the track is going to be the slickest. So keep your eyes on all the differences that you see throughout this race, and I mean, it's going to be entertaining either way.
Yeah, exactly that. The track, what do they call it? The track polish level and how gritty that asphalt is. You want to run on the pieces of asphalt that are more gritty, as they will hold that grip with the moisture infiltrating it. But now these guys are getting ready to go down trackside for the starting lineup. So let's go down and give it to you. The PTR TV starting lineup here today at a very wet Nürburgring. Starting today's race off on the front row is Ryan Robertson, 2-minute 11.598, about 0.3 of a second back. You find Dave Hill. Third is Robert Barrows, Kachow, and then Mark Kudrowski in the fourth spot. Fifth is Rich Minkler with Mark Wilson, a very consistent driver, going to be in sixth. Matt Hurley in seventh. Les Turner, our league owner, in eighth. And rounding out our top 10, Robert Senneville and Dwayne McCarthy, a Canadian, row number 5.
Yeah, going from there, it's going to be Dennis Griffin and Chris Sherburne at P11 and P12, respectively. Reed Rundle and Bill Paul Lucky, 13th and 14th. Looking back from there, P15 is going to be Robert Cancian and Todd Marion Pietri in P15 and P16. Dale Green, 17th, Scott Houston, and P18. And then from there, Matt Owens and Bryce Moore, P19 and 20.
Got about a few more drivers. Gerald Livingston, who is not on circuit now, but he is registered in 21st. Nathan Lafayette, 22nd. Dean Mall, 23rd. Another one not on circuit right now. Brian Irby in 24th. And then Mark Adji will be shotgun on the field in the 25th starting position here. So we are expecting a 14-lap race here. Now, it was spoken about to have some different kind of race details here today, but what we ended up settling on, we still have the very limited fuel load and the 35 some odd percent. Tonight we have unlimited fast repairs. I think they're expecting guys to have some issues and they want them to stay in the game. So, and the incident cap is removed from the race, but you will still get points if you exceed certain incident thresholds. So that will be something these guys will have to consider. But with the limited fuel load there, Bradley, I mean, the fear was that maybe you can make this race without stopping. So that's why they tried messing with that, but they reverted it. So it makes you wonder, 11, 12 seconds slower a lap. We see these guys pitting with 5 minutes left in the race sometimes. Maybe you don't have to pit.
Someone's going to try to make it. Someone is going to try to make it without the pit stop, and they are going to fail. I am 100% adamant that you are still going to need to stop. You might as well just plan on it. It's a case of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know how your car is going to do. Just pit and just get it over with. But someone's going to try to stretch that fuel load, and if they make it work, they're a genius.
They make it work, they're a genius. If not, well, you could say the inverse. But here we are on the front straightaway here. Round number 4 from a moistened Nürburgring here. Barney's going to have the flag in hand. He's going to get ready to wave it for Mr. Ryan Robertson. We're going into that starting area. And there it is. Let's have the battle and the spray fest into turn number 1.
Yeah, watching as it goes side by side, Robertson and Hill in the Porsches into turn 1. Turn 1 is a downhill hard hairpin here going into the Hockhocking, and you can see that most drivers get through. Dave Hill does run it wide. Matt Harley does run through. There's somebody very wide there, and I did not catch who that was off the front. But back in the mid pack, you do see 2 and 3 wide here as they come through the Mercedes arena. This is a track that awards a little bit of braveness and willingness to go side by side through the race start. But as we keep watching and things keep going here, everybody seems to have it together for the most part. But man, I'll tell you what, riding on board with any of these drivers, the spray is obnoxious. Jump on board with, let's say, Minkler, and just watch how that spray is there.
That was a dumb good guess, because that was actually the guy I clicked on before you even said it.
I had to try. But for the most part, watching through, everybody's gotten in early. They've gotten through, jostled themselves around. You've got some people up a place, down a place. Nobody really having a big moment except for Mark Wilson, who lost 3 places on the race start. Other than that, it looks like it is a case of guys are just timidly figuring this out. And we'll see very quickly what cars benefit. I think the Audi is going to do very, very well. So Les Turner and Matt Hurley are going to be very, very well set off.
Now, one thing we were, it's kind of contradicting what we had said in our opening here. Not seeing too many guys running offline on that alternate line. Everybody's still running a traditional race line there, taking their normal apexes. That makes me wonder, because it is such light rainfall here today, maybe that inside lane is not polished off. Well, it's not overly, saturated, so that might be still getting that grip down there.
Yeah, it could be that. It could be that they're on wet tires. It could be the static conditions coming in. It's a number of things. If I had to guess, it's probably the wet tires are handling it better. Traditionally, when you see this sort of moisture, it's more on a wet circuit, and you're going to expect a little bit less grip going through. But I have a feeling that this is just a case of the wet tires and everything sticking together, and it looks like that is the case as we end lap 1 here. We continue on.
And here comes Dave Hill with a dive into turn number 1 underneath Robert Barros there, but then you have the switchback here, and he will fall back into line, will not make that pass attempt there, so that will be forgotten. But Mark Kedrowski, he is now in 2nd place here. Dave Hill falls back to 3rd, and now Ryan Robertson up to 2 seconds, but what we talk about all the time, Ryan doing Ryan things, this is probably the one race of the season where we cannot formally just etch him the checkered flag right now, because at any given moment, even in the static conditions, he could still slip a wheel, put too much throttle down, and lose control of that car.
It is possible. Now, if it's going to happen, that's another question entirely, but that is something to keep in the back of your mind, that, you know, rain is the equalizer. Rain is what can catch even the best drivers off guard. We've seen it many times, and we've seen it at this track in particular happen and for drivers. We're riding on board with Robert Barris here, who is running through. He's down in third, but look at the spray off the back of the car. Look at the spray at the car ahead. I mean, some of this is going to be drivers being a little timid early on. They're going to just kind of hang back and just let this race go. They don't want to get caught out by a silly mistake or pushing too hard. Let the car come to you. Let the track come to you. You know nothing's changing throughout this race. The track conditions are going to stay similar, so just hold on. And Kudrowski sliding a little bit out of the Warstein curve.
Well, just as you saw that, I was just seeing Mark Wilson and Les Turner have a battle here, but whatever did happen to Kudrowski, it did allow Dave Hill to get right to his rear decklet here, coming through the final chicane here towards the end of the lap, now heading into turn number 15 here, putting us back onto the pit straight. You can see Kudrowski going with a little bit higher of a corner there, maybe trying to get a little bit more grip. Maybe he just missed the apex there, but he got a pretty good run, and he'll pull down. And look at Dave Hill try to get out of the spray there, trying to get some visibility as he heads down the straight into turn number 1.
Yeah, and you kind of compromise yourself in that sense. You want to be able to see, and you don't want to be stuck behind the spray dealing with it, but you also want to be in the spray because you want the slipstream down that main straight going down towards the Mercedes arena, coming out of the Coca-Cola curve. So you kind of catch yourself in that mix. And as we watched him come out of the Mercedes arena, go through, I mean, you can see just how close they're staying, but they are staying slightly offline to each other. And I do think a little bit of that is just preference. I think a little bit of that is Hill in that Porsche has broke grip several times, just minuscule but enough. And now as they come down into the Valvoline curve through the Ford curve here, the right-hander that they're hitting now, this is the case where everyone's settling into the rhythm. Everyone's just very comfortable with where they're at. The gaps are all right where they're at. I don't see anything too crazy. I do see Rich Minkler in the background, who looks like he is about to try and dive up the inside on Lightning McQueen as they head down through the Dunlop curve towards the Schumacher S's. But he doesn't there, and he's going to stick behind. But you see, again, trying to dip out of that spray a little bit. Kudos
to iRacing on one thing they had to do post-rain. You can see the long kind of rain light on there with Robert Barros here as we have something going on up front. Dave Hill got around Mark Kudrowski there. Let's go take a look at that on our instant replay, because it did seem to happen very quickly. You could see how much of a gap Kudrowski had on him. Oh, he went off into the grass, and yeah, that made it rather easy, because in the grass, the wet grass, mind you, he really had to mind his P's and Q's there to not lose control, and that just caused me to lose the other train of thought I was on, so we will carry on.
I don't know what train of thought you were on either, because that caught me off guard as well as we watched Hill.
Oh, yeah. Now I'm back. Guess who's back again? My thoughts back. Tell a friend, which is you. The brake light here on Robert Barros, you can see that long rain light there. iRacing post-rain, they realized how bad the spray was, and you couldn't see the brakes. You couldn't see the taillights of the vehicle through the spray because just the rendering techniques that they use. So they actually had to do some very creative things there so that you could actually see the car in front of you through the spray there. And luckily they did a good job. You were able to make out where you are even when the spray is taking over.
Yeah, and you know, I love iRacing because it does stay true to the simulator, but they also do things that are going to cater to the less simulator craving audience, is the most polite way to phrase that. The less simulator craving audience that use iRacing for its non-intended simulator purposes. So I do agree with you, but I do have to counter you with the fact that in real life, you can see the lights through the spray. It was actually a graphical anomaly. Just the way that they render things, the lights weren't visible enough, because even in real life, you could actually see the lights. You know, the light will actually like
bloom through the water, and it's actually quite visible. But iRacing had to do something, because otherwise you couldn't see, and it was rather difficult, as if it needed to be any more difficult. Oh, Bryce Moyer, parts for sale. BMW fenders and hood, half price here at Germany. Let's see what happened.
It's like it's a Facebook marketplace. Goes through the left-hander here, and the car just snaps around.
Yeah,
nothing he could do.
Well, the thing he could have done was not go too wide there, because once it bit. And that just sent him off, obviously, into the tire wall. But back to live footage here, and Ryan Robertson doing Ryan Robertson things, as we like to say here, up by about 3 seconds. Didn't get into the point standings earlier, but he is up by 15 points over Sheldon Rosenbaum. Sheldon is not here today, so that lead will grow, obviously, but the drop week's still in play here, as we are in race number 4. 2 races left here in the season. Could I remember which 2 they were off the top of my head? Absolutely not. But I'll try to see if I can pull up a schedule here for my own knowledge sake, on top of making you viewers informed.
Yeah, while he's pulling that up, let's just kind of look for a second.
Road Atlanta and Belle Isle.
There we go. There we go. Who is this making a pass on our screen?
Oh, no, that is Dwayne McCarthy, Squirrel Raccoon. He is all over the place there, getting sideways into turn number 1, and look at all the time he lost about 5 spots there to Dwayne McCarthy in that Hulu BMW.
Yeah, and then we watch there's Houston tries to go around the outside. 2 trailer park girls go around the outside.
Yes, you took it from me, but you took it from me, but I'm glad you did, because it's too good of a pun not to use.
It's a very good one. That's why I borrow it every once in a while when I'm here on the channel. I've got to borrow it here because there's not a lot of other good places I can use it. So I borrow it here and stick it through, because it does work very well, especially for this league.
Yes, it does. There's those wipers are. Well, there goes Dwayne. Oh. As another commentator I used to work with would say, too much beans there, as there was too much gas on the exit of the corner, and a loop-de-loop, and he will probably lose about 10 spots in the form of 1 lap here. But going back up front, Ryan's lead was 3 seconds. Now it's down to 2 seconds, but that could be one of 2 things. That could be A, he made a mistake, which, given the conditions, is completely plausible. Or B, and this is where I'm leaning towards, he is purposely slowing the pace down and trying to see if he can make it for his own entertainment purposes.
I think that is a very, very valid option. And again, I would not blame him. And if any driver is going to pull that off, I do think he's one of the ones to do it, because he has that racecraft and that knowledge to pull it off. So keep your eyes on that as it goes. I think that gap will continue to come down. He may even lose positions, but if he doesn't pit, it's not going to matter. He's going to gain probably at least 45 to 50 seconds if he doesn't pit.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that, and I'm almost positive of it. I know the doc, pre-race doc, has updated a few times, but yes, they are still using the 35% fuel, so it's essentially the same fuel that they've always run. And I've never seen a guy go the whole distance. There was one race, Ryan had asked admin, if you can make it, do you have to pit? And basically, admin took the old Bill France logic and said, well, if you can, you won't be able to tomorrow, because they were going to make sure that that is not in the rule book. But obviously here, this is a little bit of an anomaly. We're still, as you said, 2:13, about 13 seconds off pace. I don't know how much the off-throttle time and lack of straightaway speed comes into that mix, but we've seen guys pit as late as 5 minutes to go, as late as 3 or 4 laps to go. I would really think it's on the table to be able to stay out, but, you know, it hasn't been overly disclosed on our socials that we have access to, so I feel like if it was possible, someone probably would have said it by now.
Or or you don't, and you just keep that little secret to yourself. I think that would be a very smart option. We're watching Rich Minkler here, who is trying to battle with the Kachow man himself, Lightning McQueen, running there in the number 58. You know, I'm thinking about it, and I'm looking at it, and I think the big decision on that will be what engine mode they've thrown it into. Now, you do get control of your engine modes, as far as I am aware, in the setup. So that is not something that is fixed in. So if they are running on the wet engine mode, which reduces engine power, reduces some of that on throttle spin up break of traction, which in turn you conserve fuel. It tends to be the least powerful setup, and you do save fuel. It is very much possible that if we traditionally see these guys pit, again, with just a couple of laps to go, 5 minutes to go, whatever the case may be, we really might be looking at a no pit stop race from several of these drivers, especially if I had to guess, the Lamborghini of Kedrowski would be an option. I do think Robertson can pull it off. We know the Audis cannot pull it off based on some of the conversation that we saw during the past week. Mercedes, Ferrari, possibly. The BMW, I wouldn't be surprised. However, the BMWs are just having a terrible time in this race period, so even if they do pull that off, who knows where the BMW is going to be at, because it doesn't seem to have any traction at all right now.
Yeah, we know with the pit road delta time, they're usually in the pits for about 7 seconds. At most circuits, they're usually in the pits for about 35, 40 seconds in completion. So if you were to stay out, you'd probably have to be within 30 seconds of the leader for it to actually be a favorable strategy, which in this instance is still about half the field. So interesting to see there. But the gap does continue to close, and we do have to remember that Dave is not a slouch. So he could be getting into his groove. He could just be, finding his rhythm. Maybe Ryan is starting to feel a little bit of the pressure there. You see last time by, basically a match, but a little bit of a advantage to that number 13 car. So Dave definitely keeping Ryan on his toes here, but this is where it gets difficult for both of them, Bradley, because as Dave Hill, from his perspective, he wants to push that little bit extra to try to gain. But from Ryan Robertson, he wants to push that little bit extra to keep his gap, and there's not a lot extra that you could push here without risking it.
Yeah, and here's the thing, Corey, is that these drivers are smart.
Oh, Matt Owens off circuit.
Let's get a replay of what happened there as I proceed to...
Oh, contact between Husted and Owens. I don't know why, but they came together on exit. I don't know if someone got sideways on the throttle, but either way, bad luck for the 077.
Yeah, he got a lot of help with that, actually. That was, that was a little more than a nudge, we'll say. Back to my train of thought, because I now remember it and it's back. Dave Hill is a very smart driver, and it would not surprise me if Dave Hill knows right now is not the time to push. We're under 14 minutes left to go. I would say if you're going to push, you're really going to send it, and you're going to try to close that 2-second gap, you would probably want to start doing that under about 8 minutes to go if you're really going to try to push and close that gap. Now, granted, he's gained about 4/10 out of nowhere, as I've said that, so I've got to wonder if Ryan Robertson maybe broke traction a little bit, or if he is just kind of slowing up again, as we discussed, a little bit of strategy, or Dave Hill might be going a little faster. Who knows? We'll see next time around.
It does seem to be that Dave Hill is better, I think, on the back end of the circuit, and Ryan Robertson seems to be better on the opening portion, because the gap really fluctuates between about 2 seconds and then all the way down to maybe 1.3 here, as coming down through the, I think the Schumacher S is here into, I believe it to be turn number 10, I want to say. Yeah, I think, yep, into turn 11, Warsteiner curve. And now we open it up here onto the straightaway with that Van Bogen here, and then heading into the NGK chicane here. And this is usually where it rolls flip-flop here. You can see Dave Hill starting to close it. Now it's down to 1.5 seconds. Let's see what it is under braking. Dave Hill usually is a very aggressive braker. Gets it down to about 1.3, but who's going to win the race on the power? And looks like he actually held that time. Now he's going to come through 14, rather into 15. Maybe get a little bit of slipstream, but can he get through the first part of the lap as well as he's getting through the back end?
I'll tell you who's really going to be wanting to get through the first part of their lap. Kadrowski, jump back to him because he's in a 4-car battle right now for his place. I've seen Minkler putting a lot of pressure on Barros there, who is pushing through and putting pressure on Kadrowski. I mean, it is neck and neck for these four. Now you've got Wilson, who is mixing it up as well. We'll see if there's a turn 1 dive here on Kadrowski.
Oh!
And Kadrowski shuts the door very, very smooth in the Lambo. But you can see the different lines into turn 1 that set you up for the Mercedes arena, and now just this 4-way battle is going to go for a while. We've got a good battle that's forming here.
You can see there on the ticker there, changed over to lap times. Kadrowski at 2:17 and now basically a 2:18 flat, so he certainly did not have a good time around last time around the circuit. So Barros and Minkler, and for that matter Mark Wilson, the fastest of that trio there, with a 2:15 too. So right in the thick of things here, as we do have a pit stop here. The first pit stop of the race actually is going to be Gerald Livingston in that number 67. Not sure if it's instigated or not sure if it's scheduled, but that is the first pit stop of the race here within 10 minutes. That is super rare. That leads me to the point where I think most people are going to stay out, because we've just never seen that level of pit strategy where nobody has pits at this point in the race. Yeah,
I've got to wonder if that's maybe just, I don't know. I don't know why you would pit this early, because it's not normal. So we'll see where that comes in. Of course, Livingston back in the back, maybe just trying to pull the undercut on some people and get some extra positions here moving forward. That is also a strategy. We'll keep our eyes on that and see what we can find out. I'm also really keeping my eye on this Wilson and Minkler battle, because this battle is heating up very, very quickly.
Yes, it is. They're all within about 0.4 of a second here, and Barros trying to hold off, and you can see hard on the binders there. Everybody has their own strategies upon entering the corners here, and you have to make sure that you're mindful to what the other drivers' strategies are, what the other drivers' breaking points are, because just because you do something doesn't mean that it gives you permission to rear-end the guy if he does something a little bit differently here. But jumping back to the front, now our gap teetering right around 1 second. Well, but just as we say that, exiting the turn 1 complex here, the Mercedes Arena section, it went from 1 second, basically doubled in the course of about 4 corners. This is what I talked about. This slow technical section, not really what Dave Hill likes. He's much better on the kind of high-speed sections, which is the back end of the circuit.
Yeah, I think Dave Hill must have had a big error through the Mercedes Arena, because now the gap is 2 seconds.
Les Turner.
Continuing to open. Les Turner in the pits.
Yeah, with approximately 4 laps to go. 5 laps to go approximately. And we are starting to see more Scott Husted, Dwayne McCarthy. You know, McCarthy's had a chaotic day. Husted was involved in that little incident with Matt Owens, who has retired from the race, actually. So, but now with about 5 laps to go, we're starting to see the back end of the field pit, but nobody up front. So that just leads you to believe, I mean, this is usually the point within the next 2 minutes that we would see the leaders usually peel off to the pits. So we'll see if that is indeed the case here. But Dave Hill didn't gain where he usually gains. He's just maybe inching a tenth or two here and there, but didn't make those big strides as he has in prior laps.
I'll tell you what's really interesting for me, just kind of looking at it, is that Les Turner had a 35-second pit stop, and everyone else has had around a 30-second pit stop. So Les Turner having a very, very slow pit stop, and we'll see how that affects him later in, I guess in just about 7 minutes.
Well, the exact metrics, I think we have different telemetries here, but this is what I have. I have a 31-second lane time with a 9-second stop. Yeah, Scott Hust did a 6-second pit stop with a 25-second lane time. Yeah, so about 6 to 7 seconds slower in the overall pits for Les Turner, and that cost him, as you said, that cost him a ton of time. Well,
Yeah,
but look at
so
Dave. Look at Dave. Now we're back to a second, but this is not his part of the track. So he actually got closer physically than he's been thus far. But this is his what is it? His kryptonite, I think it is, if we bring superhero references into it. This Mercedes Arena section, as we do have Centerville and Griffin come into the attention of their crews here, as well as Reed Rundle. So perhaps staying out all the way, not on the cards.
It's looking less and less likely, but it does look like they're running longer than they typically do. And I think that is the case again of wet weather, a little bit of fuel saving. I don't think they'll make it the full race distance because, again, they do have to make the race distance and then make a cool down lap as well. So you've got to make that little bit of extra distance than what you traditionally would have to. As we see the 43 exiting the pit lane here of Rundle, and you see he's exiting right in the middle of traffic and left turn. Jam on the brakes.
I don't know if there was contact between the 43 of Rundle and Dean Mall, but if there wasn't, they missed each other by a whisker there. Les Turner trying to figure out where to go there. Rundle looking to the outside through the technical stadium section here, but now he'll relinquish, and Les Turner will try to throw himself into the mix, but he will fall back into line in his Audi. But actually, look at him looking to the outside here, just taking a peek, or maybe just trying to get some visibility.
Yeah, probably a combination of the two, but of course you're going into that left-hander to the right-hander, Valvoline and Ford curves respectively. And so if you are Les Turner, you've got to look at that and you've got to drop back. Check back in up front here at the battle with Minkler and Mr. Lightning McQueen Kachow, and you still have them separated by the same half a second they have been, but we've seen Minkler kind of jump up on Barros here off and on, and our leaders are in the pits. Robertson's in, Hill is in, is Kadrowski coming in, Kadrowski is in, Barros is in, Minkler's in, Mark Wilson is in. Pit lane's about to be busy, boys and girls.
Yep, so obviously we dramatized something that does not exist, but I do think Dave really sent it on in there and gained a second or two on Robertson, or maybe a couple tenths rather. But let's see what the race is. Very, very close. 1/10 of a second pit stop difference between the two of them. They're going to be battling out about 6/10 of a second, 8/10. It's starting to grow. Looks like they will exit the same way they entered.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. These are two very skilled drivers in all aspects of racing, so it doesn't shock me to see them right there with each other. But now the question is, what can Dave Hill do to capitalize against Ryan Robertson? Can he bring the charge to Ryan Robertson through the last... He's got 2 laps, realistically, and he needs to just be pushing very, very hard. This is going to be, if he can do it, the moment. And then the same thing with Kadrowski. Kadrowski actually lost a place there in the mix, and he needs to charge his way back up into 4th place if he can, because that will actually set him up for a podium finish. We'll see if he can in that Lamborghini. It'll be a good battle to keep your eyes on through the last 4 minutes.
Only driver not to pit in the top 10 this far is that number 135 of Chris Sherburne here. So either he is pulling the alternate strat, which may or may not even physically be possible, or he's just going to pit late and one of the TV time, one of the two things. But we'll see indeed what happens there. But it just seems like these guys are just too equal. It's kind of like the old Mario Kart rubber band effect. I'll gain on you here, I'll stretch out the gap on you there, I'll close in on you here. They just can't seem to break that equilibrium. That is about 8/10 to, I'd say, a second and a half.
Yeah, and sometimes you just have that happen. Sometimes drivers just find themselves set up very well and they just don't. They don't separate out. They don't have anything crazy happen. That is something that you'll see, especially with very, very skilled drivers. I'm trying to keep my eyes on if anything big happens back in the field. And it looks like Reed Rundle through Valvoline curve pulled off the same thing that our BMW did earlier. He is missing a front end, so we'll go check that out here. I already got it queued up here. Yeah, the same thing. Yeah, that curb, and that's something that we haven't talked about, but it's definitely a real thing here, simulated quite well on iRacing, is that curbs become very, very slick in this weather. There's 2 different kinds of curbs. There's the flat curbs, which are essentially just painted asphalt, but then you have the ripple curbs. The ripple curbs retain some grip naturally because of their elevation change, but those flat curbs essentially turn into ice there once you hit that paint. Yep, and I will tell you another driver that faced the same fate as we just saw Reed Rundle face there, and that was Les Turner faced that same fate. Got on the curbs too much power, car cuts to the left, and bada boom bop. That is all she wrote. But we're in 2 minutes, 8 seconds to go. I think this is going to be about all we get, and there is that replay of Les Turner. I think that's a different part of the track there.
Yeah, it's on the Mercedes Arena.
Yeah, Mercedes Arena, but it happens sometimes. But now we're back up and going. We're 2 minutes to go. I think we got this lap of one more.
Yeah, that's where our estimate has us now, because we are at 1:45 around, and where we are about probably a third of the way through the track. We will certainly get ourselves to the end and probably get about I'd say about 2 minutes of bonus racing here. I think the way this will work out. But Dave has to be happy with a second. I mean, remember, he started second, and now he's running second, but he dropped back on those opening few laps. I'm not sure exactly what happened. My memory doesn't go back that far, but it just makes you wonder if he didn't have those issues in the beginning and he was able to stay second. I almost feel like he is the faster car, but he had to wait. He had to get by Kedrowski there, had to gain time, and ultimately just couldn't overcome what happened on those opening laps.
Yeah, and sometimes that's how it goes. And Corey, I want to turn your attention to something. I know we use slightly different timing setups, but check your P12 on your timing setup, and what do you notice?
I see Dean Mall.
And what do you notice about Dean Mall that you don't notice about any other driver on track?
He has not pit yet. It'll pull up his stint. 0 pit stops.
Is he pulling off the unthinkable? Is he making this work?
The white flag has just come out, so he is going to need to run an extra lap. He is not even completed with his lap number 13 yet, so he's going to have to make it about another lap and a third if that strat is indeed going to work. But Ryan did already take the white, so he is on his last circuit around here on the Nürburgring GP layout, our inaugural wet weather race here within the Red Sox Racing League, and I'm going to give it the thumbs up, which means I'm not going to say we have to do it too much, but add it to the repertoire every now and then. I think most of these guys will probably approve of it, because we have had a pretty clean race. Nobody's had any chronic failures. Nothing has chronically gone wrong, and ultimately the cream always does find a way to rise to the top.
That is very true. That's how it works. I do want to point out that Dean Mall just crossed the start-finish line, did not go into the pit lane this time by. So he's making it work. Kudos to him. But up front, I do want to also keep my eye on that Kedrowski battle with Minkler and Wilson. That's a very, very strong battle that is going to finish out all the way to the white flag. Those guys just need to keep the car on track, keep it together. The timer has officially ran out, so we are on final lap status. There's nothing more beyond this, so we'll see how it goes all the way through the end. And watch up front, because where did this come from? I thought Dave Hill had a good run, but never mind, I am wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're TNT, we know drama, or maybe you don't know drama, but that's our job to find it, even if it doesn't exist here. But coming down through 12 into the Odd Van Bogen straightaway, now into the 13 and 14 chicane, and of course only one more turn after that. So again, Ryan Robertson doing Ryan Robertson things. I think, I don't remember that much, because that's just how my brain works, but I'm pretty sure he's on a clean sweep here of the season thus far, and he'll just add one to the tally here. Coming off turn number 15 onto the pit straight. Wet weather, no challenge for him. Ryan Robertson tames the Nürburgring.
Yeah, beautiful run from Ryan Robertson, and Dave Hill there in second place should be very, very proud of that one. The battle with Barus, Kedrowski, Minkler, and Wilson, that is a very strong battle that kept on and is keep on keeping on until they cross the line. I do want to point out that Dean Mall spun it on the final lap and is missing the front half of his car. So,
but he still hasn't pitted yet.
He made it on no pit stop, but he made it without a front bumper. So
take the good with the bad, I suppose.
I'll give him style points, I guess. I'll give him style points, I guess. He lost it through the Valvoline curve and just a little bit of a waltz out. But tell you what, I enjoyed the battle there from the front. I did enjoy that battle, and I enjoy the rain. I think if you're going to have a wet race, the Nürburgring is a very, very good place to do it.
Yes, it was, and all enjoyable nonetheless, as all these guys will complete their laps. And again, in Red Sox Racing League fashion, you have to complete your cool-down lap, or else you will be dinged there on the points standings here. But now that the race is predominantly over, still a couple stragglers left to finish things out, but let's go down and give you our final rundown of results here today from the Nürb. Getting that victory in unsurprising fashion, Mr. Ryan Robertson by 2 seconds over Dave Hill. Robert Barros down there in third. Kadrowski in fourth. Rich Minkler in fifth. Mark Wilson in sixth. Matt Hurley in seventh. Centerville, Griffin, and Cancian will round out our top 10.
And then from there, it is going to be P11, Chris Sherburne, Todd, Marion Pietri. We didn't talk about him all night, but a very, very good race there in 12th. Reed Rundle in 13th, Scott Houston in P14, Les Turner in 15th, Bill Paulucki in P16, Dean Mall in 17th, did not hit that entire race. And Dwayne McCarthy, Dale Green, Nathan Lafayette, rounding out your top 20.
And then 21st through, 24th, Livingston, Moyer, Owens, and Adgie here. So, well, we have our third place finisher here, and you were talking about that battle all race, so Bradley, I can go ahead and send Robert Barros your way, talk about his race.
Yeah, Robert, good evening, sir. How does a wet Nürburgring treat you?
Well, we saw you key up, but we did not hear you, sir.
Nope, still not hearing you, sir.
Yeah, we see the bubble, but...
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll let you stay in here. We do have Ryan here, so we'll keep you in here. If you figure things out, just chime in, and we'll cut back to you afterwards. But Ryan Robertson does Ryan Robertson things, and that's... are we on a clean sweep of the season thus far, or did you miss one? I don't quite remember.
I lost to Ross
oh, yeah. All right, so not a clean sweep. So
no,
well, I need my fact checker here. But for the first time, we have some pre-sip here in Red Sox, and I'll tell you, Dave Hill, he kept you on your toes. He didn't get a good start. He had to gain a lot of time back, and I tell you, he had you pretty close there. But it seems like you were getting through that first end of the circuit, through the Mercedes Arena section, all through that technical, that you seem to have his car there. Was that your favorite part of the track?
Yeah, definitely. The first half was just I had nailed down pretty well. I had to take a couple different lines, so like coming down the hill into that basically 180 turn, I had to diamonding the corner instead of hugging it like you normally do in dry. The rain just adds a completely different factor to pretty much how you approach almost every corner. As that excitement. Yeah, I had Dave, like when Dave had the bad start, I was like, okay, I can kind of back off a little, and then he just started coming right back at me. And I was like, okay, never mind, we're pushing hard. So, but hats off to him. He had excellent race pace, and it came down to it.
So we had one driver in this race stay out the entire time. I know obviously the league admin, they were going back and forth on the fuel loads and what was going to work, what was it, are we going to have pit stops or not. Ultimately, with the slower pace that we had today, how much fuel would have been needed to be able to finish this thing out? Because obviously someone did it, but he probably had to back it down pretty far.
I put 9 liters in and made it. I'm sitting right now at 0.6 after the cooldown lap. So, I probably could have done it if I would have saved about 8 more liters, but it would have cost too much pace, just because you need to get out of those corners and it's setting everything up. And yeah, I tried to fuel save a little bit, like on lap 3 or 4, and I hadn't practiced it, and I just blew a corner. I was like, all right, never mind. We're gonna do our original strategy.
Well, my American brain cannot convert liters, but I'm gonna guess it's probably about 2 gallons, something like that. But either way, man, congrats on the inaugural wet weather race. I wonder if that gets yourself a special trophy, but I think we'll catch you at Road Atlanta next week if memory serves.
Yep, thanks for it.
See ya. All right, got a ping here from Robert, so we'll give a take 2 on that, and Bradley can have a word with Mr. Barros.
Yeah, Robert, can you hear me now, sir?
More importantly, can you hear me?
Yeah, there we go. Now I can hear you. So, first off, ka-chow for a podium. Second off, you had a good battle all the way through. Kind of talk me through your race.
Yeah, it took me about probably half the race to realize track temperature had changed, and so that obviously that changed the handling of the car. I was dealing with just not being able to get it to rotate through the corners to get good exit speed, but I could at least maintain my position in 4th well enough, and then just I don't know how through the pit sequence I must have just short filled it a lot more to jump Mark to 3rd, and then just kind of settled in and saved a little bit of gas at the end. I had 0.0 on the fuel indicator and about 8 pounds of fuel pressure.
Oh, so you barely made it back around.
Yeah, it was stumbling the whole last corner and then all the way down pit road. But it made it.
It made it, and that's the important part. How much practice did you put in for this rain race?
I probably did about an hour or so just to get used to the rain and the track. I used the AI to kind of get used to being in traffic and dealing with the spray, and I think that helped a lot, especially at the beginning, because I still kind of knew where my track references were and where to look, not being able to see out the front because of the spray.
And then, does the rain get your seal of approval? Do you want to see rain again here in the Red Sox Racing League?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Robert, appreciate your time, sir. Congrats on the podium, and we'll see you next week.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I just got your little ping there, Bradley. I don't know how you break a chair in a broadcast, but
I'm just sitting down and it just snapped around, so I don't know.
Is that a fat joke? Either way, but so Dave Hill finishes here in 2nd, and it seemed you had the pace. I would argue you were actually faster in many cases than Ryan, but what happened on that start, man? You started 2nd, you fell back, and you had to play the comeback kid, but just couldn't get all the way there.
Yeah, I thought maybe I'd have something for him this week. Was running good in practice and stuff, but if lap 1 or lap 2, whenever it was there, I guess I got a slow down from that last chicane, and that just took all the wind out of my sails and was pretty deflating. But I tried to burn it off on the straight there, and man, those things feel like an eternity coming down after getting one. But I know MK got by me there, and Robert tried, and I didn't want to give up, and I thought maybe I could get back into it, but yeah, just not quite enough.
Yeah, and obviously just talk about the fine line that you have to balance. So obviously with Ryan, he's trying to keep you ahead, he's trying to keep you behind, but you're trying to push, trying to get closer to him. But obviously the room for error here in the rain is that much more narrow. How do you balance not trying to put that extra 1% down, knowing that it might be what loops you?
Yeah, it is tough. You gotta, it's exactly what you said. You want to just go 100%, but it could bite you so fast. I mean, it can bite you on the dry track, but even more so here. And being that second car it's tough in the spray. It really is. You can run practice laps all day long, and it's not terrible. Just with the rain, Wilson and I, my teammate, we tried to do some practice with running behind each other as close as we could and get a feel for the spray, because you can't really see your normal line or where you're gonna set up. Me personally, the window wipers are so distracting, so I don't use them. So I run with them off all the time. And when you get into that spray, you can't really see the car in front of you. So you're hoping that he made his line, and then you can kind of follow through on yours.
So I guess you're gonna be vouching for some virtual Rain-X that we can have. But either way, man, we will catch you at Road Atlanta next week, and we obviously can confirm that things will be a little bit drier there in Atlanta. So congrats on a solid second. Not quite what you wanted, but still another solid result.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
See ya. All right, well, that'll wrap things up here today from the virtual Nürburgring. Obviously, a wet Nürburgring still, and seems like the drivers got the seal of approval. We got the seal of approval, so we'll see what the future holds.
It's got my seal of approval. I think we just set the weather to about a 15% chance of rain every time. Maybe 5% chance, something. We just let iRacing, the iRacing gods, decide what we're doing. I think it would make for some interesting racing. Baby steps there, baby steps. But we took the first one here today, so make sure you stay tuned. We'll be back Saturday night with the SSRL at Rockingham, and then we'll be back for race number 5 here next week at Road Atlanta. That's going to be Corey and Bradley signing out of the booth. Have a great night, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.